Good morning everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. I thought we would create our next snippet. So snippet 97 is on YouTube. I will put a link on the post just so that you can find that. But we did 95 and 96 and this was snippet 97 and I absolutely love that. So that was snippet 97. And for 98, I want to do something that coordinates with that-ish. It doesn't have to be exactly the same, but I want something that coordinates with it. So let's do snippet 98. Excuse me. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use an ink pad that I've used quite a lot. So this is a Distress Oxide ink pad, and it's well used. And if you've got any ink pads like that, I would save them for this background technique. So sort of lift your ink pad slightly so it's not flat, it's slightly raised, and just so it's slightly tilted, and just drag your ink pad down. So just tilt it slightly, so then you just hit the card in different areas. So let's just, so you can see my ink pad isn't soaking wet. So you don't want a soaking wet ink pad for this. You want one of those ink pads that's really well used. Now, if you've got, if your ink pad is very juicy, then just use even lighter pressure. Don't press too hard, or pick a different colour where your ink pad is quite dry. So let's clean that up, and then we'll just grab a little bit of kitchen towel. There we go. That's it. So we've got a lovely background now. Nice and simple, nothing complicated at all. I'm then going to take TE44, a myriad of designs. And because I should have looked beforehand, I'm going to see if I've got the pumpkin actually cut out. Knowing my luck, I probably won't have it cut out, but I thought I had. But there's that much in here. These are all my little masks. I've got the little pumpkin cut out. Have we got the big pumpkin cut out? Got the bird cut out. There we are. There's my pumpkin, all cut out. Let's just, where's that other? There we go, let's take that. So I've got my masks now. So if you haven't got any masks, or you haven't saved any masks, just stamp your pumpkin onto a piece of copy paper or your masking sheet, whichever you prefer to use. And hasn't the weather definitely turned? You know, it really feels autumny, doesn't it? Anyway, let's take our pumpkin. So I'm going to take the pumpkin stamp. Now, I don't necessarily want it in oranges. Yes, I know that's what colour a pumpkin is, but I don't necessarily want that, because I want mine to coordinate with this snippet quite nicely. So I don't want to bring in any orange to bring in. Now my pumpkin stamp is quite a big stamp. There we go. I like how there's just a little gap where it's been cleaned. Look, even after all this time, you can still clean your stamp. It's just, the stamps are just brilliant quality, just fantastic. Anyway, you know I don't clean them. So I'm going to bring in my little Distress Oxides. I'm quite smitten with these, I must admit. So I'm going to use Vintage Photo. Then I want a dark one. So I think we'll use Gathered Twigs and Ground Espresso. Quite smitten with these, I have to say. So I'm going to add my ground espresso. At first, when you do it, they're a bit difficult to get off because they're proper. That's it. So I'm going to add my ground espresso as my dark area. You've seen me do this before, so to colour with the mini oxides. I'm then going to use gathered twigs. So let's take the gathered twigs. And then I'm going to take vintage photo. So I'm sort of colouring with my mini ink pad. So I'm going to go back then to the previous colour. And then I'm going to go back to ground espresso. So you can see I've not done anything overly complicated. So where am I going to have that one? So we should have that there. So we'll just press that there. So I'm just using the oxides. So the snippets are a snippet of an idea. You don't necessarily have to finish them. You can just play with snippets of ideas. It's entirely up to you. Oh, just look at that. How you can't get a simpler colouring than that, can you? Just wonderful. So again, I'm now going to take my mask. So if I place my mask here, whatever I add now is going to go behind that. I'm not going to worry about the leaves. The leaves are always intertwined. It doesn't matter. So I'm going to take, can't remember the colours, ground espresso. And it doesn't matter if some of them are coloured a little bit different each time. So the ground espresso. Then we take the gathered twigs. Then we take our vintage photo. So we've got the vintage photo on there. Then we come back to the gathered twigs because Tracy can't remember the colours, poor little brain. Then we come back to the ground espresso. Okay, and we'll just take that bit off there. And now I'm going to stamp the second one. So shall we put that about there? I sometimes talk to my card. I know it's not normal, is it really? So you can see again, just like I do with my VersaFine Clairs, I don't rush that. I still give that time just to absorb onto the surface. Now, if you're cutting a mask, don't cut it out of thick paper. You don't want to do that because you'll end up with a ridge. Just cut it out of thin copy paper or your masking sheets. Don't cut that out of anything thick. There we go. And you've got one behind the other. You could also spritz that and get another print. Now, let's see. Can you see here? There's a little bit of a, let me lift that up, a little bit of a white area. That doesn't really bother me. But if it does bother you, you can just take a little bit of your water, take off the excess, and you can just drag the colour. There we go. Now, we can drag some of this colour just so that it's automatically grounded. We can take a little bit more water if we wish. But we can sort of start the process of grounding it. Let's take a little bit more of the ground espresso. And let's just ground those. So you can come in again, you can make it a little bit darker if you wish. But by just giving them a little bit of grounding, it just brings that to life. We can come in and we can go even darker if we want to just make it darker. You can always tell when Tracy's having too much fun because she faffs all the more. There we go. So you can make that a little bit darker, just so that you've got your images just grounded. Oh, how lovely. Just wonderful. The other thing you could do with your pumpkin is you could also do some kiss stamping. So you could stamp another stamp onto this when you've added the ink and then stamp it. It's a lovely technique. So what we'll do then is I'm going to take, I know we've got the bird on that one. Oh no, let's take the bird. Where are you? There we are. So we'll take the bird now. So this is SS29. So we'll take, that was good English, take, can't speak, SS29. And I want to add the bird on here. And can you see that I'm not going to end up with much of the bird? I can have the feet there, but then I wouldn't end up with much of the bird peeking through. So I won't bother about his feet, but we'll have him peeking through just there. Now to do that, I'm just going to use one of my distress pencils. I'm just going to pick any, it doesn't really matter, she says, and then it'll take ages. Oh, there you go, there's the pencil, ground espresso from set 4. You can use anything you want, use a pen. I'm going to use the ground espresso because it just goes with what I'm using. And then I'm just going to, can you see, rather than me masking off those leaves, I'm just going to draw the bird in. So he's round there. So I'm just drawing that bird in, just so that it's part of the composition. There we go. So I've just drawn the bird in, just so, really, that's for me to have a visual. I'm one of those people that I need a visual. So I'm not going to do anything yet. And then I'm going to take a little bit of ground espresso. Now, don't move your stencil. Obviously, tape that. If it's easier for you, just tape that. Obviously, I'm not getting my brushes here. So just tape that if it moves a little bit for you. As you can see, mine is moving. You can tell that it takes me longer to get the stencil in the same place. I obviously had it angled. Now you're going to watch me for 10 minutes. Try and get my stencil in the same place. That'll do. Doesn't really matter. Let's get a little blending brush. I'm going to take one of my little blending brushes, and I have a little bit of a visual now. So I'm going to take that dark colour, which is the ground espresso, and I'm just going to come in with the ground espresso and just blend the colour. I'm just coming in and blending the colour, just so I have some kind of visual where my bird is. So you can see I've got the visual now of where my bird is, which is quite handy. So then we'll come in and I can add a little bit more colour. So I'm picking up a little bit more of that colour, and I'm going to come in a lot darker now, just at the edge. So you know, like my pumpkin, it's got those dark edges. I'm just coming in really dark. So then I'll take a little bit of, I was going to say copy paper, which I don't have. I'll just take that dark colour off. Then I will come to gathered twigs. And we'll add a little bit of the gathered twigs. And again, just take that extra off. And then I will use the vintage photo. Which gives that warmth. There we go. And you can see now I have my bird as part of my project. You could easily use the ink on here and create another part bird image on another project if you wish. Can you see? Doesn't that look lovely? And how simple is that? Just beautifully simple. It's just a lovely, simple idea. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to take, where are you? I want to bring in a little bit of green. So let's bring in, spot the person that's questioning herself now. There we go. There's actually 10% off your basket until Sunday as well in the shop if you use the code October in capitals, no spaces. So if you add that to your basket, there's 10% off. So I'm going to take Jar of Wishes, TE26, because it's now back in stock, so I can use it. Yay! So I'm going to take the little floral that I've got here. No idea where the other one's gone. And I'm just going to take a look visually. I'm just visualising what I want. So I'm obviously not going to colour all this stem. So I want some greens. We've got those here. There we go. And again, I'm just going to colour with my inks. So I'm going to take the ground espresso. Just a little bit of that ground espresso as a dark colour. Let's take some of those greens now. So then I'm going to use evergreen. No. Do you like how I don't know? A little bit of rustic wilderness. So let's take a little bit of rustic wilderness. And again, I'm just colouring with my inks. I'm then going to take twisted citron. Then I'm going to go back and just take my ground espresso, just to add that bit of shading in again. And then I'm going to add my floral. Now, it doesn't matter if I don't get the floral perfect, because again, we can just doodle that in. So just give that a little bit of time. There we go. I've instantly got shade, and if you're not happy, you can just come in with a little bit of your water and you can just blend your colours a little bit, because I quite like it with it all grained and having that look, but I've got the shade and everything. So I've got people ringing me everywhere now. So I'm just going to add another one here. Then I've got 5 elements. So I'm going to take the ground espresso. Then I'm going to take the Rustic Wilderness. I'm quite into colouring this way with a silhouette stamp. Then I'm going to take the Twisted Citron. Can't speak. So I take the Twisted Citron. And I'm then going to take the Gathered Twigs again. And I just said a little bit more. I think that may be a little bit too far down. There we go. Then I've just got 5 elements on there, just in the odd number. Sometimes I work in even numbers if it looks just right. But you're not going to get an easier colouring method than that. And you could again spritz the stamp with water, but nothing's going to be easier than that for colouring. Take a little bit of water. Now you've got this ground espresso at the edge, so you can automatically give a little bit of shade, look. So you can pick up some of that colour and automatically give it a little bit of depth with some shade. And if you're not happy, you can go in a little bit darker with the ground espresso and you can make it a little bit darker. Take off your excess and then just blend, can't speak. Just bring that down so it's a little bit darker. And then you've automatically got some shade and depth then. So then I'm just going to add a little bit of text. So for that text, I'm going to use the poppy stamp because it's got a lovely text on there about poppies. I always think I'm talking about my little fur baby then because she's called Poppy. So I'm going to take the text off the poppy stamp. And I'm just going to take a little bit of the ground espresso. And then I'm just going to add a few touches of text just here and there. Just to add a little bit more detail. But you can see that I'm really pressing very lightly. I'm not doing anything over the top. Just nice and lightly. And then we just want a word, don't we? So I'm going to use the poppy stamp and I'm going to use the word bloom. So yes, let's use that word bloom. There we go. And then I'll use my Nocturne ink. And then you just need to decide where you're going to put your word. I'm just going to place that here, still within the design. Can you see I've missed a little bit of M there? Don't panic. Where's my micron pen? Preferably one that works is usually good. I'll just make it look like an M. There you go. Don't panic about it too much. We all make mistakes. So then I'm going to use my little Inktense just to bring a little bit of shade into that. There may be enough moisture on here just to blend that out. Let's have a little bit more. I've still got my kitchen roll on one side. That's it. And then if we then add some splatters. Try and remember to put your things back, Tracy, because you'll be looking for them. So let's add a few splatters. That will be absolutely fine. Now I'm just going to give that a little bit of a dry, just so that that Posca pen doesn't take on too much of the brown. Plus when I come to adhere it then, I'm not putting my hands in that wet. There we go. So let's bring in our snippets. Let's bring this in. Just, you know, I just love doing this. I love that we've got our little books of ideas that we've been doing now for a long while. And I love that we can be creative in so many ways. Let's bring that out a bit. There we go. I am going to try and find my own journal, maybe a pink pig one, that we can use for our snippets. But just, I love them. Let's clean that. So just clean the tip. Just give that a little clean. And then use your finger as a guide. But I absolutely love them. So I hope you've enjoyed that. And I hope you'll give that snippet a go. So love to all. I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.